Hey everybody, doing another movie retrospective. Yeah. This is a good one we're doing today.
This was a trip. George C. Scott. George C. Scott entering the world of porn.
Sold.
And he's religious George C. Scott entering the world of porn to save his missing daughter.
Yeah.
And John Milius
produced
this, okay. And there is some Milius fucking shit in it, that's good. It's also just bizarre because it's like anti-smut but showing you smut. Smutty 70s skanks everywhere, male and female in the underworld of LA doing porn and prostitution and BDSM and all this shit, and they're all portrayed as like fucking basically subhumans.
Well,
everybody in the sex industry is
I don't know if I'd go that far, but because there are some likable characters in it. But I think the movie, to an extent, is actually kind of drawing. I mean, the reason it's called hardcore is because it's making a parallel between the porn industry and also the hardcore religious beliefs that George C. Scott and his people have.
I guess so.
So, and it's kind of pointing out his hypocrisy as well.
Yeah.
So this was written and directed by Paul Schrader, and I feel like it's one of the movies that people don't talk about. He said that it was one of his most personal films. It's actually kind of about his dad. He was raised in a very, very, very fundamentalist, like religious background, and George C. Scott was based off of his dad. But Paul Schrader he wrote Martin Scorsese movies, Taxi Driver, probably most famously, Raging Bull. He also wrote
like those.
Last Temptation of Christ, Bringing Out the Dead. He directed the Cat People remake, which was actually really good.
Pretty good, yeah.
American Gigolo and Autofocus, which is, we should probably do that one too, because that's about Bob Crane, and that's from 2002. That's a great movie. So he directed that one as well. But I feel like this is one that doesn't really get talked about a lot. And I think that I saw this, I mean, it came out in 1979. Obviously, I was too young to see it like in the theaters and stuff because I was only 7. But I think I caught it or parts of it on cable, like maybe in the 80s. And then I just kept remembering it because of like Mystery Science Theater, they would always do the memes like, turn it off. Like they would always do that, which is from this movie. So it just stuck in the back of my mind. And then when I was perusing through Tubi the other day, I was like, ooh, they just added it. And I was like, I've been wanting to rewatch that because I think I saw it a long time ago. And I'm really glad we did because this was like way better than I remembered.
Yeah.
Way better than I remembered.
It was good. It was good. It was entertaining. I liked it. It was funny. It did have a lot of. Well, it's not really funny. It's just there's some funny shit in it. You just, I don't know. Just gotta watch it, I guess.
I mean, yeah.
George C. Scott, who playing himself.
Like he always plays.
Yeah.
He's so shouty.
Say he was like that. Just
I love George C. Scott.
Kind of stoic. People.
He's perfect for this, though.
People were evidently afraid of him, be on set with him. He was just George C. Scott didn't like Hollywood. He turned down Oscars and shit. He turned down an Oscar for Patton, and it wasn't because he thought Patton was a fascist. He thought he thought the awards ceremony was a joke. It was just a meat parade. He wanted nothing to do with it. But he took on Patton. He took awards from other.
He was like the New York Film Critics Guild or something like that.
Yeah, he'd accepted that one, but he did not like the Academy. He wanted nothing to do with them. He thought they were phonies. He was also kind of embarrassed about being in movies and liking being in movies. He was embarrassed. He was more into doing live performances on stage. He liked that. I
kind of feel like a lot of really good actors have that.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of creative people in general, not just actors, writers, artists, whatever, you have a lot of them have a large portion of like self-loathing. Yeah. And it's almost like if you're successful, you kind of feel guilty about it, like you're faking it or you shouldn't be successful. Yeah, or you're successful at the expense of someone else.
He was described as kind of a stoic and brooding, self-loathing movie actor. He didn't like it, but he liked it, but he didn't like that. He liked it. So he was embarrassed that he enjoyed the attention, but he didn't want to be known for it.
I get it.
He wanted to play King Lear and shit, on stage.
I get it. Like I said, I think like a lot of really good actors, George C. Scott among them, do have that feeling, whether they articulate it or not, which he actually did.
Yeah.
But another movie this resembles, actually, if you've seen the 1999 Nicolas Cage movie 8mm, This is essentially,
Kinda like that, yeah.
it's pretty much like that. I think
Yeah.
8mm is more about a snuff film, whereas this one is more about porn.
Yeah.
But this does have a snuff film as a plot point as well.
Although it may have been a fake snuff flick. There's never
Well, that's
proof.
kind of like, yeah. I mean, I guess in the context of the movie, like after I thought about it and after I read some other analyses of it, I'm guessing that it's implied that it's the real thing, but they don't really tell you like whether it's fake or whether it's real or not.
Because,
and like in the end, it doesn't really matter because I don't think that's like the main message of the movie anyway.
Because what they're showing in the 70s, 80s fucking sex industry is that they were all scammers anyway. They're fucking scammers.
Yeah.
So I suspect it was a fake, but because they were spent. You had to pay $100 to see it, to just screen it, and then 3 dudes at a time, and I think it was a fake, but there's no way of knowing. The guy who made it, who was in it, overreacted and got shot in the back by the detective, which in real life they'd arrested the detective for shooting that dude who ran away from him in the back. Just because you're a private detective didn't mean that you were, out there fucking catching bad guys. It's a good movie. I'm just kind of critiquing it from like some of it was unrealistic,
Well,
it's just an action movie.
And I think that
an action movie, an adventure movie.
I think it originally had a different ending too. I think that ending was a reshoot, which I kind of want to get into. So I am going to spoil it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's on Tubi at the moment, so you can go watch it for free. But like I said, I really, I'd seen pieces of it before, but I was actually surprised at how much I really liked this one.
Yeah, there was one girl in there he meets and he hires her to help him find his daughter. She's a porn star / peep show girl / hooker type deal, and she's nice and everything. She knows her life's fucked up, and she in the end was like, oh, you're not going to help me once you find your daughter, you're going to split, that kind of deal. He did, you know what I mean, which is kind of fucked up. The detective's like, nah, just he said, should I give her any money? He's like, nah. You don't know this world. Just let it go.
Well, I mean, that was kind of, like I said, that was kind of like pointing out his hypocrisy of his character and like the belief system that he held to.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, when the rubber hit the road, did he really actually believe? It's very, very easy to espouse certain beliefs, religious beliefs, but then when like some bad shit happens to you, then all of a sudden, all bets are off. And I kind of feel like it didn't hammer that home too much, but I think there was a lot of that going on in there.
Yeah, because like it was obvious that the girl was kind of ready to get out of that life, and he didn't fucking get her out of there, like a fucking chump. And he didn't have a wife. He could say, you're coming with us, you can fucking rent a room upstairs, I'll get you back on your feet. Thanks for helping me.
That's what I mean. There was no reason for him not to.
Yeah,
but
because you're coming back to Michigan with me.
But you knew that was going to happen. Yeah, that's the thing, and I think that was pointing out.
Stay here.
Yeah, it's like I don't necessarily think the movie wants you to like think he's a villain. He's not a villain.
No.
But he's a complicated character. You know what I mean? It's like a character study of him and by extension, like maybe his relationship with his daughter. Although interestingly, you don't see his daughter for pretty much the whole movie. She's only like at the very beginning and the very, very end. The rest of the time, she's just like a goal that he's working toward.
Yeah.
And it's mostly like about him and like his, kind of going into the underbelly of like the LA porn scene of the late 1970s.
I'm a Christian mythicist and cultural Christian. I don't believe any of that stuff is literal. I don't believe any of that shit really happened or anything. But I know the Christian culture real well, and the culture says that he should have taken her home with him. And got her back on his feet.
Like any good person,
because she wanted to be rescued.
that had spent that amount of time with her, and that she helped him find the daughter. He found the daughter, and it's like you'd think that he'd be like, and he had money. He owned a business. He had a place. Like he had a daughter, like about her age.
Yep.
I think the daughter. The thing about it, like the woman playing the daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that she looked a little bit older, but I think like the implication was, and I was reading another review of this, where they implied that the daughter in the context of the movie is actually supposed to be 14.
Okay.
Although the actress playing her doesn't look 14, which thankfully, but I'm just saying that I think in the context of she was supposed to be 14, which is why it was such a big deal that it's like, she's a minor. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, she's 17, so it's not that big a deal.
Right.
I think she was supposed to be 14. I don't know if that's true or not.
And I think the sex worker that was helping her, I don't remember what her name was.
Nikki.
Nikki, yeah. I think Nikki was supposed to be about 21, 22.
Yeah, she was obviously like...
She was older.
An older woman in the terms of,
Yeah, but, it's still...
She said she'd been hooking since she was 15, right?
Yeah.
Like that she ran away with you,
Yeah, and she... Basically, she said she wanted to be rescued. He didn't fucking save her.
Yeah. Which, like I said, that was like real shitty. That was real shitty.
That was kind of the...
And he smacked her around, too, when he was trying to get information.
Yeah.
Like, he threatened to punch her in the face. Like, he smacked her, and then he was going to punch her in the face.
Yeah, we had to use fear because she wouldn't talk. He was just trying to get his daughter anyway.
She was scared.
Yeah.
Because he was getting in like way deeper than he thought. You know what I mean?
Although which I can see how they were trying to point out the hypocrisy, because that's kind of one of the big foundations of the early Christian church, like 2nd century, was saving people from prostitution and slavery. That's how it evidently grew, according to historians. So, very unchristian not to take the hooker with you.
But see, in the context of it, maybe we should do like a little bit of a plot synopsis, like before we get too much into this, because this is one of the things that I kind of wanted to touch on. So basically, what the plot of the movie is: George C. Scott, he lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a very tight knit community, very very religious. It's Dutch Reformed, right?
Yeah.
So they're Calvinists. Which, if you didn't know, they believe absolutely in predestination. They're kind of one of those motherfuckers that think like God, like before time started, has already picked out like the elect people, and it's like nothing you do matters, essentially, because he's already picked his favorite ones, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether you're good or evil or not. It's just whatever God's whim is. So
no, that's not what.
It is kind of like that.
It already knows it's God.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know.
You don't know,
but God already
knows. And then your good deeds really aren't much compared to the grandeur of God. They're like rags before Him and all that.
Yeah,
and that humans aren't really capable of any goodness.
Yeah,
compared to God is what they're saying. But no, people are saved. You can't just do whatever you want.
No, I'm just saying, what I meant was, since God already knows, like, obviously you don't know, it's like, but you know what I mean?
You have to be your best. You just don't know if you're going to be
You just don't know, and if you don't, like, you just got to suck it up, buttercup, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Right, I was explaining that to a Muslim friend of mine. Them, in Islam, it's all inclusive. Everybody can go to heaven, and even non-Muslims can go to heaven, and everybody's supposed to be in heaven.
Well, a lot of Christian denominations are like that too.
No.
Well, some, I mean,
most of them believe that it's a limited, very small amount. Some say it's 44,000. That's it.
Well, that's a Jehovah's Witness thing, isn't it?
There's a lot of them like that. Depends on which denomination, but no. Christianity really was always kind of an exclusive thing. Christian commandos, we're the ones going to go to heaven. Those other Christians now, don't worry about them. They're not going to make it. There was a lot of that going on for centuries, a long time. They wiped out the Cathars because of shit like that. Christian sects fought each other constantly.
Yeah, big time.
But it was very exclusive. The idea was only a small amount will actually go.
Yeah. So that's basically what...
And it's because they're not trying to get to heaven. Because there's a difference between Eden and heaven. Because according to what a lot of them believed, and this is all forgotten because people don't go to church anymore and they don't fucking learn the differences between all these denominations. Some of those denominations actually believe Eden will be restored on earth, and people who are saved during the rapture will eventually just inhabit a new Eden and a kingdom of God that's on earth. And you get the Garden of Eden back. Only some very small people go to heaven, and they're like human souls don't belong in heaven. That's the place where angels and gods live, and maybe Moses and a couple of patriarchs from the Old Testament are there, But no, not regular civilians, not regular even Christians, But so no, there's a big hierarchy of who's going where. And Mormons is even more complicated. You can get promoted into being a god and make your own universe where you're such a good Christian or such a good Mormon that you become God in a parallel universe. How's that for a reward?
Yeah, but so, basically, yeah. So what we're talking about is that Dutch Reformed, the sect that George C. Scott and his community is a part of, essentially believe in predestination, right? Yeah. So you get, like, at the very beginning, it's Christmas, and they're kind of having a big family get-together, and they're even talking about, sin and all this other stuff at this thing. Now, apparently his daughter, Kristen, who, like I said, looks older, she looks about 18 or 19, but I guess she's supposed to be younger. She's going on a Calvinist, bus trip, and they're going out to that sinful land of California, and he's kind of worried about it, but, they're going to have, a bunch of chaperones. It's a bunch of other kids her age, blah, blah, blah. So they go, and at first, you think that George C. Scott, his character's name is Jake, by the way, you think that his wife is dead because that's what he tells everybody, but that's actually not the case, which you find out later on. You actually don't find that out until about halfway through the movie. So she goes off on the bus trip. Now, he gets a phone call, and somebody on the bus trip said that, they took a trip to Knott's Berry Farm, and she was waiting in line for the roller coaster, and she disappeared. So nobody knows where she went to. They can't find her. So he has to go out to LA and figure out, where she went to. Now, initially he goes to the cops. The cops care, but they're just kind of look, we have, so many missing persons cases, and a lot of these girls are going to end up dead. Yours probably just ran away, so don't fucking, get all upset about it. So he's like, okay, well, he goes and hires a private detective. Now, the private detective is played by Peter Boyle, who has been in a million things, but will always be the monster from Young Frankenstein to me. Yeah. But he's actually a really good character. Yeah. So George C. Scott agrees to pay him $750 a week, right? Yeah. To look for his daughter. And a long period of time passes, but they don't really tell you that in the movie. Sometimes somebody will say, oh, it's been several weeks or it's been months or whatever. I think it ends up being 4 or 5 months, the whole thing. It doesn't seem like that, but that's how long it is. So this guy, the private detective, he finds somehow, I guess, I don't know if he's a porn connoisseur or if he just suspected that maybe she ended up in porn, and so he was investigating that avenue. But he comes up with this.
Instincts.
He had instincts.
He said
that's true. He did. Yeah.
He had instincts, and he's looking at this real religious dude who says, "My daughter would never do this and that," and he's going,
and they're like, "Yeah,
your daughter's fucking hooking."
Yeah. So he probably, he immediately went to the seedy underbelly of one of those Midwestern religious families that their daughters are fuck this shit and took off for LA and ended up in porn or on the streets. Yeah. And so he finds this 8mm film, which very clearly shows his daughter Kristen getting banged by 2 dudes.
Yeah, a straight one and a gay one.
Yeah, so it's just kind of that's where the scene turn it off, because he shows it to him, and he watches it for an uncomfortably long time.
Yeah, you're why are you watching this?
That's
shit?
Your daughter, dude. Stop it. I mean, he does tell him to turn it off. I guess he's shocked and he can't believe. But I mean, I don't know. If I was someone's, I don't know. I'm not someone's dad, but if I was someone's dad and your daughter was in a porn, I'd be like, no thanks. I'm not.
Okay, I know she's doing this shit. Okay.
Yeah, just turn it off. I don't want that image in my head forever, because that's never you're never gonna be able to bleach that out.
He had to face reality,
I guess. So then after that, he has a falling out with the PI, because it turns out that the PI, perhaps for research purposes, is investigating all these other porn shoots, and also sampling some of the porn stars and hookers that he comes across, and he's just well, you know what, it's research, which, like I said,
but he probably could have found her that way. He
probably could have found her that way. It probably would have been quicker.
That's how you do it.
Because I mean, you don't want to pay the dude to just bang hookers on the side, but he could be getting some scuttlebutt that way.
They won't talk to you until you spend money on them.
Right. And that's they established that later on.
Movie. He tries to go up and talk, they won't talk to you.
And they're just what? Well, you want a massage, or you want this or that? Won't talk to you want wrestling? You want, you know what I mean? And he's just no, I just want to know. And they're just bye. You know what I mean?
They won't talk to you.
So so he eventually learns that. But I think that works good, because it just shows, like I said, he's this very, very conservative, Midwestern, kind of he's not wealthy, but he's probably upper middle class. He owns a business. Yeah. And so he has no idea like about this part of the world, like this kind of underbelly.
Yeah,
and
he's not married either. His wife left him.
And and you find that out later on, and it's just kind of like, and he has these like weird, like, even for Christians, like pretty extreme beliefs, I guess. And he's never experienced anything like this, so he's completely out of his element, like completely out of his depth. So he has no idea how to deal with this. So like I said, he just gets mad and like moralistic about the PI, like I said, doing some shit on the side. But like you said, that probably would have been the quickest way to find her, because
it's just do a bunch of business and get to know him, and eventually fall in with him,
and then they would talk to you, because they would learn to trust you. If you just have this dude like that's all uptight,
yeah, where's my daughter? They'll get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want to. We don't want anything to do with you. So after they have the falling out, and then he goes through in a scene where he actually kicks the dude out of his own apartment. He got because he's George C. fucking Scott, and he can do that.
This is my apartment. Get out of here.
And he's like, get out. And he's like, but this is my house. Yeah. And he leaves.
Yeah.
Peter Boyle leaves.
And he gets kicked out because he was hooking up with a girl.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling.
Which, like I said,
I don't give a shit if you're George C. Scott. If I'm on a couch with some fucking girl who's 22 years old, fucking ready to get it on, you're not gonna get me out of the damn house, man. This is my house.
Well, the thing is, and it should be noted too that it's like, yeah, he's paying him $750 a week, but that doesn't mean that he has to 24/7 be looking for your daughter. I mean, he's on the clock, he's off the clock.
Yeah, he's got spending money.
He gets like lunch periods and things like that too.
That was the money I'm sending you is going to this, and he's like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna find her.
Yeah,
But
like I said, I think that was on purpose, because it's showing how out of his depth George C. Scott's character was, understandably, because this is not something he had any experience with previously. So he goes through like all the PI's shit, and he's like, I'm gonna find her my own self. Like I'm gonna fire this motherfucker. So
he has to do the same damn
thing.
He
goes. So he ends up having to go. So initially, it's not real successful, because he goes into, like I said, all these massage parlors and live section. Yeah, gets kicked out of a whorehouse. Because he's basically just trying to like strong arm his way through it, and it's really not working. No one's giving him any information, and all this other shit. So finally, he's like, okay, well, if you can't beat him, join him. And he essentially he starts going to like porn shoots. Like he says he's an investor, right? And like goes to that one guy, and so he
fall in with the
gets on a porn shoot, and then he has the idea, in probably what is the funniest sequence, of putting an ad in the paper. He's like, like hiring male, because he's looking for the other guy that was in the picture.
For the guys that were in the picture.
They were in the picture with his daughter, like the film, because he can't track the film down. It was one of those kind of just 8mm real ones.
It was
the
made
title
by
changed.
Kids.
Yeah. Like in a hotel room or some shit. So and because it was underage, everybody was like, I never heard of that movie, you know what I mean? Because they can't legally sell it. So he puts it out in the paper, like looking for male porn stars, and he also puts on a ridiculous porn stash and a wig, and he's got like those crazy like polyester shirts. He's like, this is what a porn producer would look like.
It kind of works,
which is kind of accurate, I guess.
Actually, you skipped a scene when he goes to the damn official porn studio, where they were the bigger porn studio that they had going, and it was the dude and his fucking assistant, this other guy, and there was a fucking really good scene.
That was good. Those two guys were funny.
Those two guys were fucking funny as shit. And then later on, when he's recruiting for porn stars, one dude shows up who I recognize, this big old black guy, and he puts on a fucking great performance in this fucking
movie. Only in there for like a minute, but he's awesome.
The fucking movie.
He's awesome.
He goes, my name is Dick Black.
Big Dick Black.
Big Dick Black.
BLAQUE, which makes it a million times better.
So you want to hire? It's just, you got to see it. He thinks he doesn't want to hire him because he's black, and he's like, no, I'll take you that.
But he doesn't want to hire him because he's not the dude.
He's not the dude
like,
in the film.
Like the skinny white dude.
Yeah, is that the skinny white?
The skinny white surfer looking dude.
What do you mean I'm not what you're looking for? And he goes, it's
because I'm black, isn't it?
I'm black. He goes, I can bust a nut 10 times in a row. I can do this. He's just everything that he can do. I can stay hard for 2 hours. He's going on and on and on.
It's great.
Yeah, I can't remember what he's been in a bunch of movies. When you see him, you'll recognize.
He has. He was so familiar, and I wish I could.
He might have been in Rocky, actually. I think he might have been in. I think he was one of the trainers that were training.
You might have something there. I should have looked that up. I forgot.
Yeah.
Because he's only in there for like a minute.
Yeah, but you see.
But it's a great scene. Yeah, he's super familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the funny thing, like, he has all these people coming into he just rented a hotel room, and he's disguised as a porn producer, and all these people come in, and then there's, like, you know, another kind of surfery looking dude who's, like, does gay porn, and then he comes in, and he's like, don't you want to see my dick or whatever, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, fine.
Okay, fine,
cool, great. You know what I mean? It's like, after a while, he's just so over it. But then, like, the guy that was in the movie with his daughter, like, shows up. Name, what was his called? Jism Jim. Jism Jim. That was his porn name. I'm like, you might want to workshop that a little bit. It's not a great porn name.
Yeah, and he's gay. He's gay.
Well, not that. No, that was a different guy. That was a different guy. It was two. That was two different guys.
Oh, it was two different guys?
They both looked similar because they were both like blonde, like thin surfer types.
Okay.
But no, the gay guy was the different guy than the guy that was actually in the movie.
Okay.
That was a different dude. But
no, they were both gay.
Oh, well, I don't know.
They were both gay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you know, I thought it was a woman at first. Remember? In the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, but then he shows up. No, because it was real grainy. He's wearing women's underwear.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell because, like I said, it was grainy. And then I was like, well, in the 70s, like, some of the men's underwear also looked kind of like women's underwear, so I couldn't really tell. They were kind of like, you know, ball hugger type. I was under the impression
that he was supposed to be gay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get that, but, you know, maybe. I don't know. But like I said, it wasn't as specific as it was, like, with the other guy. The other guy was like, you know, he had done this,
he was trying to have sex with him.
Yeah.
For the job.
But, he was like, yeah, can I show you my dick? And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, it's great. So, you know what I mean? Which was, like, super funny. But then, like, this guy, he's like, he says something that's very interesting to George C. Scott. He's like, because he shows the picture, he's like, I'm looking for this girl. Like, I think her name is Kristen, or maybe she goes by Joanne, which was actually her mom's name, which we'll get into. Yeah. But, you know, and he's like, oh, I'm never working with that bitch again. Like, she did some freaky ass shit, or she's into some freaky ass shit, or something like that.
She chewed my dick up, or something.
Yeah, like I was raw for however long after, and all this other stuff. And George C. Scott is not having it, and beats the shit out of this guy. Like, he doesn't kill him, but he beats the shit out of the guy, and he's like, look, I don't know where the fuck she went to. I only worked with her that one time. I don't even remember what that fucking movie was called. I only got $25 for it. Yeah. But he sets up with this other lead. He's the one that sets him up with Nikki, right? It's like, I think she knows, like, she knows her, so
she knows
so
who
go.
she is.
So then he ends up going to this other, like, kind of peep show sort of place and meets Nikki, and then Nikki is easily the most likable character in this movie. So they kind of, like, establish a friendship, and he's like, look, I'm not paying the PI anymore. I will pay your expenses, same thing, like $750 a week or $900 a week or whatever, for you to come with me. Because they get, like, leads that now Kristen's in Mexico, or she's in San Diego, or whatever. And so they're kind of, like, following all these leads around. So I think, like, the heart of the movie is the discussions that him and Nikki have about... she says she's a Venusian, like, you know, from the planet. No, well, like, goddess of love. Yeah, But she says she ran away, but she's actually, like, a really likable character, and she tells him when he goes into all this detail about his Calvinist beliefs. Yeah. I mean, she basically says to him, she's like, "Phew, I thought I was fucked up," and I'm like, right? Yeah. So there was that whole thing. But the thing about it is that. So after a while, she really helps him out, and. You know, she gets to a point where, you know, obviously she probably didn't have a father figure or had, like, a very negative one. So she's just kind of like, she doesn't come out and say that she wants to get rescued from all this bullshit that she's been dealing with her whole entire life. But she does put it out there. Yeah. And he kind of, like, promises her, you know, she's like, oh, but, you know, once you find your daughter, you know, you're just going to throw me away. You're going to forget all about me. And he's like, no, that wouldn't happen, and all this other kind of shit. I'll help you out. Yeah. But then, like, at the end, when he does actually end up finding his daughter, and she's fine, but she basically tells him what we've suspected all along, that she's like, I didn't get kidnapped, because he was like, no, they took you, and she's like, but fuck that. She's like, I took off, I ran away, because you suck. And you know what I mean? He didn't really want to deal with that. Yeah. And so he's going to take her back home, and it's supposedly a happy ending. Like, the guy that was doing the snuff film, because there's also, like, a little side plot about a snuff film.
Her boyfriend was doing the snuff film.
Yeah. And, you know, so although, like I said, the snuff film looked fake, but to me, the weird thing about it is that they charge $100 to go see this snuff film, and then it's over in like 2 minutes. Like they kill the people like right away. I'm like, don't you want to like make it last?
Yeah.
I would think. I mean, I'm not if it was a real snuff film. I'm just saying that you would think for that amount of money you'd want to get your money's worth.
Well, the one that they show you is obviously not real. It's made for the movie.
Well, yeah.
But it was so, to me, it seemed so kind of fake that I think they were trying to say that it was not a real snuff film.
Like in the universe of the movie, it's not a real snuff movie.
Yeah, I think that it was for suckers because they were scam artists.
That's what I'm saying. They never tell you definitively whether that was a real snuff movie or not, but I'm kind of suspecting, because it kind of goes along with the theme of the rest of the movie, that would make sense, because honestly, making snuff films and doing that seems like more trouble than it's worth when it would be very, very easy to fake it.
Yeah, and he didn't ask to see a snuff film. He just, I want to see the real exciting. Oh, you want to see the real exciting stuff?
Yeah, the exciting stuff.
Oh, exciting. And then, okay, and then
the real fucked up shit.
That could be anything. You know what I mean? So I think what it was is just to meet market demand, because you see that these are sophisticated operations, where they had the damn dungeons and shit like that.
Those were all real sex clubs and real. They shot them in all real places.
Yeah, they're like sets
in
and
LA.
Shit. So they would just to meet market demand come up with any old bullshit. Oh, somebody charge him $200 for that. You know what I mean?
Because like I said, why would you go to the trouble and danger of making a real one?
Why would you kill somebody who's worth a lot of money?
Right.
Because you can
it just
turn
seems
her
like,
out. Or
economically, it doesn't really make any sense.
And then if the cops get involved, you're going to fucking prison. And then you're not going to make a lot of money on this probably. So it's a risk. Better just fake it.
Yeah.
And then you can prove, you got hidden. If the cops ever show up, you've hidden the proof. Like, look, here, that girl's still alive.
Yeah, there she is.
There she is. Like with Cannibal Ferox.
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, Cannibal Holocaust. A movie they fucking...
And he brought in the actor. I didn't kill them, I promise. Here they are.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
But yeah. So I don't know, like in the universe of the movie. But at the end, he takes his daughter back, because at first... She's just kind of like, I ran away, like, you never loved me. And he's like, well, nobody ever showed me how to show any emotion. Because he's, like, real cold and controlling, which I'll get into in a little bit, too. But he's just starts crying and stuff. And then he's like, well, do you want me to leave? And then she kind of changes her mind, and she's like, no. So he takes her back home. But then Nikki is out there, and she kind of, like, looks at him, and he's just kind of like... And then says to the PI, it's like, well, can I give her some money or something? And they're just like, nah, just fuck off.
Just let her go.
You don't belong here, he says.
Yeah, go back home.
So everything that Nikki feared about him turned out to be right. Yeah. Now, interestingly, what I've heard, I don't know if this is entirely true or not, but the original ending of this, which I'm not sure, because I felt like the ending of this was a little bit abrupt, but the other ending, but this wasn't actually the ending that Paul Schrader wanted initially. The original ending was just going to be, he goes through the investigation, and then he finds out, I think, that his daughter was actually killed in a car accident that didn't have anything, she had gotten into porn, but it didn't have anything to do with the porn industry. Yeah. And that would have been, like, more, again, like, challenging his beliefs in, like, predestination, because, like, well, that was meant to happen. Can you deal with that? Because I do kind of feel like there is sort of an undercurrent of him thinking that everyone's fate is already sealed, like what's going to happen to you, there's like nothing that you can do to change it. But then when his daughter gets kidnapped, it seems like he doesn't really have the strength of his convictions, because he's like, well, I have to go look for her, and I have to do this and that and the other. So it's almost like he's trying to change the outcome, even though he supposedly believes that you can't change the outcome, like you can't change people's fate. You know what I'm saying?
I guess so.
So there's that whole thing. Now, so I don't know. So I don't know if that would have been a satisfying ending. And the thing about this one, I feel like this was more, the studio or whoever, they're like, well, we want like the happier ending where you find her and like take her back home. But then I'm just kind of like, well, is that ending all that much happier though? Because Nikki got fucked over.
Yeah.
She was like the most likable character. Yeah. And Kristen, who you don't even know because you only see her for like a minute at the beginning of the movie and a minute at the end, she's kind of like a blank slate. She doesn't really even get to talk until the very end, so you don't really connect with her. She's just like a cipher or like a goal. So I kind of feel like
she wasn't that cool either.
Yeah, she wasn't really that cool. No. So I think that's kind of highlighting what he was saying about predestination, because it's like Nikki you know, even though she was a really cool, nice, likable person who helped him out, she's still damned. Like, she's damned to have a shitty life forever, even though she didn't really do anything to deserve it. Whereas Kristen is going to have like a really good life. She's going to go back to the Midwest and presumably go back to being normal. And it's like she doesn't really deserve that either. Yeah. But then the thing about it too is that even though they both go back home, nothing's ever going to be the same between them again. I mean, they had a shitty relationship before, obviously. And I feel like that maybe is not going to ever be resolved because now, you know, she's done porn and she's like gotten a little taste of freedom, I guess. And she's kind of told him what she thought of him. And he's also seen like the seedier side of life. And so he can't really go back to like the bubble he was living in. Yeah. So I don't know how much happier it is. And like I said, I don't think he ever grew or changed as a person because, like, remember I mentioned before that like he would tell people that his wife was dead. Yeah, you find out later on, and actually Nikki was real perceptive. She's like, your wife's not dead, is she? And then he's like, wow, how'd she figure that out? No, she left him, but he tells everybody she's dead because it's easier, I guess. And
it's more honorable.
Yeah, and I guess they don't, this is by implication, just there's a couple of scenes in there. You're meant to think that she left and the daughter ran away because he was so controlling and like strict. Like I said, not only at one point later on does he like beat the crap out of that guy who's just like some low level nobody, but he also hits Nikki. Yeah. And is going to punch her in the face, like if she didn't tell him anything about it. Yeah. And there's a scene, and I wondered why this scene was in there, but then like when I thought about it, you know the scene where, because he owns a company, it's like a furniture company or something, and there's a scene at the beginning, near the beginning, where he goes and he talks to that graphic designer who just made him like a new sign or a new thing for his out, and he's talking about how he likes it at first, and he's like, oh, well, I wouldn't have hired you if I didn't want your input or like for you to do it. But then like after this conversation and back and forth that they have, they end up doing what he wanted anyway, not what she wanted. Yeah. So you can see that he's very, very used to like getting his way. If he can't like strong arm his way by like literally punching somebody, then he'll just manipulate you into doing what he wants. So like I said, he's a very, very controlling person in that way. And you're led to assume that that's why his wife left him. They don't never say that, but that's what the implication is. And that's why his daughter ran away. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like there's a lot in this movie that's going on beneath the surface, I suppose. But yeah, this is a really, really good one, and I feel like when people bring up like Paul Schrader's other stuff, this one doesn't get talked about as much, which is kind of a shame. Like I said, I do think the ending was a little bit abrupt and a little bit like too easy of a resolution. At least I thought that when I was watching it, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, that was probably like the right ending to have. You know, so there's that whole thing. But what else? Do you have anything else you would like to say about it?
No, I really didn't read into it that much. It was just a movie. It was entertaining. And yeah, he was a fucked up dude. And I really wouldn't have done it the way he did it. He made a lot of mistakes.
I wouldn't have either. Like I said, you can, but
no street smarts at all.
Well, but that's in line with his character. Yeah, I mean, he lived his entire life in the Midwest. He was super, super religious. He lived among other religious people, and he didn't really have any experience outside of that bubble. Yeah. So, like, when he was confronted with seedy-ass L.A. in 1979...
Yeah, which was seedy as shit.
Yeah, it was.
Seedy as shit. I left L.A. in fucking 81. And fucking lived in fucking Carson, California. It was outside, it's a suburb outside L.A., also in Long Beach. And I remember, you know, it was just... Carson was just a lower middle class or working class neighborhood. It's normal, you know, suburbs, and you would see those coin-operated fucking newspaper machines they used to have back then, and it'd be porn in them. Yeah. And these are just, you know, next to the damn local dime stores and grocery stores. You know, it's not the way people imagined. It was not uptight at all. Like, you know, not California during that time, during the 70s. Wow.
Well, I kind of feel like because porn had only recently been sort of mainstreamed, normalized.
I think it became legal.
Yeah, it became legal, so I kind of feel like everybody was just like, woo, like the doors just busted open.
Yeah.
Like now you wouldn't have that because you don't really need to. Like everybody's surrounded by porn 24/7.
60s and happened, and then 70s hippie kind of stuff happened, and we used to go to, like I told before, you go to Sequoia or Redwood National Forest, go to Lake Clarko, which Lake Clarko's, I don't know what that's like now, but when I was a little kid, had my aunt take me down there and everything. It was fucking nudism half the time. Just teenage girls and little kids and grown women walking around, fucking the men just running around nude, fucking swimming. Which I guess is kind of innocent when you look at it, in a certain way, just the world was a little safer place, I think, back in, at least up in the mountains it was. But they were just smoking weed and just weird. It was another world.
It wasn't that safe. There was like all kind of serial killers running around.
They didn't know. They didn't know. You just heard about things on the radio, certain things happening. But it was always like, well, that never happened to me. That's
the thing about it is that shit's safer nowadays, but the problem is that you hear about more shit
right
now because of 24/7 we have information at our fingertips all the time, whereas back then you were low information, so it's much easier to believe that shit was safer even though it actually wasn't because you didn't hear about it as much.
Yeah.
That's I think the only difference.
But up in the forest, like in Sequoia, it was all campers. It was almost like a community. And it was the families and friends and park rangers that come up to your campsite, because my aunts were cute, young and cute, because Paula would come and shit, and it would attract all the damn park rangers, and they'd show up with fucking guitar and fucking start in the campfire and fucking singing Rocky Mountain High, and they'd fucking give out fucking weed. Yeah. They had guns and shit, they were fucking smoking weed. And some of the park rangers were females and shit. They had a good time back in those days.
But yeah, I mean, if you definitely want to see, if you want to see kind of like a snapshot of what the seedy part of LA looked like in 1979, this is actually a good one because, like I said, they shot on location. They shot in real sex shops and real massage parlors and real live sex shows, all of that stuff. You can. It's just a sticky movie.
Yeah, I can remember seeing stuff like that, but I was only seen it from the fucking passenger side of a car. Mom taking me somewhere, driving through it. I remember going downtown Long Beach, and seeing like the Pussycat Theater, which is all porn theaters and shit, But I don't think that's where all the real hooker stuff was happening. I think that was more like L.A. Los Angeles, downtown areas, I think.
Yeah, because that's where this was shot. Right,
but it was also kind of spread out in downtown areas of other little cities, like Long Beach had some of it. I think that might have anywhere where there was military bases and stuff, because that was military and naval shipyards. That shit was around there. Strip clubs and stuff. Remember, you used to see them cheesy lights and fucking bad fucking graphic design on things, and to see it, I forgot how cheap things looked. Things looked really cheap.
Yeah, well, shit was cheap.
The signs and the lighting and everything, and you just didn't have the technology.
Yeah, we had crappy shit back then.
Crappy. Yeah, I forgot how crappy
it was
shit
real
looked.
crappy. Everything was real crappy.
And they showed the interiors, L.A. interiors inside of fucking apartments, and I remember. We had friends that lived in places like that. How crappy the chairs and the shit looked, and the fucking carpeting and it's kind of a time capsule.
One thing,
70s looked pretty crappy. One
thing before we go, I kind of wanted to address this a little bit because I read a review of this from the Time from 1979.
Yeah.
And the reason the reviewer didn't really love it was because they thought it would have been better, or the character, George C. Scott's character, would have been more interesting if he was actually tempted by the world of porn. I'm not sure I agree with that, though. I think it worked better.
I kind of thought that was happening, though.
Well...
Remember how his friend came and tried to save him? He says, go back home. Don't tell him you found me, type of deal. I thought he was maybe fucking around with it a little bit.
I don't know if it was so much. Yeah, it wasn't real clear whether he was actually kind of getting involved with it, or I don't think it was. I think it was more like he had just become obsessed with finding his daughter because of his controlling nature. Like, I have to find her and I have to get her back, more than actually like being like, oh hey, maybe this is a new career path that I could go on. You know what I mean? I do kind of feel like maybe
he was showing up to shoots.
That's true.
Yeah.
But see, it's hard to say because he was just trying to get information. He was just like trying to find her, and he realized, like, finally, what the PI had been trying to do the whole time, was that he would need to like immerse himself in that world to actually get any information from anybody, because otherwise nobody's going to talk to him. So
I thought the PI was more interesting. He was like, he knew all the hookers and all the porn stars and stuff, and he was like, like he told Nikki, he's like, what are you going to do? You got to stay here. What are you going to do? You're going to go and you're going to get a job?
Yeah.
You're going to go work at, what do you say? You're going to work as a receptionist or something?
Yeah. Cosmetologist.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, I mean, if she moved somewhere where nobody really knew her, she probably could if she went to school. But it's
she wouldn't be able to put up with it. She wouldn't be able to put up with it.
That's true.
She was used to freedom. Yeah. Running around and just like trying to make a few dollars every day, having fun. She seemed to have fun with it.
Well, the thing about it, there's actually like an interesting conversation that she has with George C. Scott's character, where she says to him, they're talking about sex, and he's just kind of always like, oh, everything's on set, they sell everything with sex and blah, blah, blah. And she says to him, she says something interesting. She says, well, you don't care about sex, or sex isn't that important to you because you don't like feel any lust, or it's not important to you, where it's like, it's not important to me either because I'll just fuck anybody and not really give a shit about it. Yeah. So it's like, it's almost like two sides of the same coin, which is like,
she didn't care.
She was indifferent about it. So it's like, they really were like, their characters were really interesting parallels. So I kind of feel like their interactions were kind of like one of the best parts of the movie, I thought. And like I said, that's kind of where the heart of the movie was. But yeah, if you haven't seen this one, it's from 1979. It's on Tubi at the moment. I think there's also been like a really nice Blu-ray released of it quite recently, and I think it even has a Paul Schrader commentary on it. He doesn't love this movie. He thinks it's one of his weaker ones. Like I said, it's kind of one of his more personal movies because it's kind of about his dad. But they said that, seriously, they said that his commentary is just all like criticizing his own work. Like, man, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay. But I don't know. I kind of feel like this is a really, really good one. I don't know if it was as good as, I don't think it's as good as like Taxi Driver or anything like that, but I really, really liked it.
A lot of skanks in it.
There's a lot of skanks. Everyone was so skinny back in the 70s. Yeah. All that cocaine, man.
Yeah, back in the 70s, fucking a skinny slut was called a skank.
I think that terminology is still
probably still in effect.
I think everybody knows what you mean when you say that.
They walked around fucking in fucking halter tops and fucking like tube tops.
Tube tops, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Bell bottom pants and fucking long boots. Fucking Nikki did have one cool outfit. So it's a real tight black jeans, black sleeveless shirt, and those fucking tall knee high fucking boots, brown boots that folded over with like a. Yeah, that was pretty. It was a good.
She was pretty rad looking. Actually, that outfit, you could wear that now and get away with it. You went the sunglasses and everything. Yeah. Everybody would be like, "Wow, look what a fashionista you are."
But she was would be considered a skank. She was a skank.
Yeah, but she was a nice skank.
Yeah, she's cool. Yeah,
that's no judgment.
Right. Yeah. Skinny coke whore. Titties hanging out.
I mean, everybody was a skinny coke whore. Yeah, maybe.
Actually, I'd say titties hanging out, more like nipples hanging out. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, 70s. Everybody's super skinny, so they were all pretty flat.
Flat.
All right.
Flat ass.
But yeah, if you've seen this or if it sounds interesting to you, let us know in the comments and we'll have a discussion about it. And that will do it for this movie retrospective. We will see you guys on the next one. Bye.